Okay.
You're starting. You want to go back to
Vav base.
Okay. Here comes trouble. Out. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Is that the name of your cat?
Yeah, get out of here. That's the name of the a man may not go out with a hobnailed sandal, nor with a sandal when there is no wound on it, nor with a tefillin, nor with an amulet, when it is not from an expert, nor with a coat of mail, nor with a helmet, nor with greaves. But if he went out, he is not liable for a sin offering. A woman may not go out with a needle that has an eye, nor with a signet ring, nor with a cochlear-shaped head ring, a cochlear-head ring, nor with a spice bundle, nor with a perfume flask. And if she went out, she's liable for a sin offering. These are the words of Reb Meir, but the Kukama exempt her in the case of a spice bundle or perfume flask. I'm going to take a second and get this cat out of the room before he destroys my computer.
Okay.
Come on. Okay, be a good boy, girl. Okay. Go. Okay. For a cat with one eye, he gets into everything. That's why one-eyed cat, everything. Oh my gosh. Okay. This is my wife, not the cat. Okay. Okay. A man may not go out neither with a sword, nor with a bow, nor with a shield, nor a bucklet, nor with a spear. And if he went out, he's liable for a sin offering. Reb Eliezer says they are endowments for him, but the Kukama say they are nothing but a disgrace, as it said, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. One nation shall not the sword against another nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. The garter is not susceptible to tumor contamination, and we may go out with it on Shabbos. Ankle chains are susceptible to tumor contamination, and they may not go out with them on Shabbos.
Okay, cool. Good. Welcome, Riley. I see you've joined us.
Oh, there's Riley. Hi.
Hey.
What can I ask what GDA is?
It's my law firm, Gifford, Deering and Abernathy.
Where's the H. Holtzman, the Holtzman after that?
Not yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and my camera is still being used in a stop motion animation extravaganza. So.
Okay. Fine. So you'll have to. So you can't raise your. If you want to say anything or ask anything, you have to speak up. You can't just raise your hand.
You have to interrupt.
You're in Shabbos, Riley. Aleph Yud Aleph Yud Aleph.
No. You're advising him badly. Council will not listen to this.
Don't listen to me. What?
We're in Vav Hey.
Vav Hey.
Oh, all right. So I was going backwards. Okay. Ignore what I said.
Okay. So now we, after hearing all the things that a woman and a man cannot go out wearing, carrying, we all. Okay. Now that all the things that they can and cannot take out into the Rishus Harabim, well, the things they cannot, and whether it's Durabanan or Doraisa, now we hear the things that you can take out. Yotza Isha Bechute Seyar. So if she is using hair extensions, let's just say, right, she's got strands of hair that are tying her hair together. Bein Mishela, Bein Mishel Chaverta, Bein Mishel Behema. Doesn't matter if it's her hair or somebody else's hair or horse hair that she's using to tie her hair, that's fine and completely legitimate to go out into the street with that. Why is that? Because it's not the sort of thing that she's going to take out. It looks the same as her hair. And even if she has to go to mikveh, is that actually mentioned here? Yeah, I think because it's in the commentary. I just remember seeing this. That even if she had to go to mikveh, she wouldn't have to remove these things because the water can get through them. They're very porous, and there would be no need for you to remove them from mikveh, and therefore there's no chashash that she would have any reason to take them out. Okay. And these ornaments, when they are sewn into a tichel, because then she's not going to take off a tichel in the street. So therefore, any ornaments that are sewn onto her tichel are completely legit. And she's also allowed to wear the kavel. We saw that before. That's a woolen cap that she puts underneath this ornament to soften it so it doesn't hurt her head. We saw this before in Mishna Aleph. And a non-Jewish wig. Let's see if okay with the chatzer. In other words, that with these things she can only go into the chatzer, but she can't go into the Rishus Harabim with them, because again, now why wouldn't she? Why would a wig? Actually, I when I was preparing this, I was wondering this myself, and I actually don't have a good answer as to why she wouldn't be allowed to wear the wig in the Rishus Harabim. In either of your commentaries, does it give us any clues as to why the wig is only permitted in the Chatzer and not in the Rishus Harabim?
I don't see. There's a big. See. I'm going to this middle part. It says, as it was stated in Mishnah 1, there's a difference of opinion as to whether the courtyard, the Katzer mentioned here, refers to even one or an Erev Katzeres, or only one without. There's another opinion mentioned in the Gemara on the name of Yishmael ben Yossi, which disputes the ruling of the Mishnah and states that all adornments may be worn into a courtyard and are forbidden only when going into a public domain. Most authorities rule in accordance with our Mishnah. Tosfos rules in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael, son of Yossi. Is that what you want to know, or?
Well,
No.
I know Lamase, we pass in that women can wear the paya in the Rishus Harabim. Anyway,
It's a very, very long commentary from the Abraham, but this is really long.
okay, so I think we'll leave that. The Mochshe Be'ozna, there's a pad in her ear. So if she's got some sort of infection or something dripping that's dripping out of her ear, so she wants to stop it from dripping on her clothes and whatever, but she wants to go outside, she's allowed to put a pad into her ear and wear that into the Rishus Harabim. Similarly with a pad inside her shoe. And also a sanitary pad, basically, for that time of month. The pilpel ubegargir melach, also with a pepper or a grain of salt, in order that she puts in her mouth in order to freshen her breath. And similarly, all other things that she might put into her mouth as a breath freshener. So I guess those were the techniques that they had in those days to give yourself a fresher breath. But those are the things that she has to put in her mouth and leave them there the whole Shabbos. She can't put them in there lechatchila on Shabbos because that is a refuah. And refuah you're not allowed to administer on Shabbos unless it's getting to be cholesh, unless somebody's actually begetter of a chole. Okay. The im nafal, and if these things fell out, lo tachzir, she can't put them back. Shein totzeves for shein shel zahav, so that's a prosthetic tooth, or a gold crown. Rabbi Matir v'chachamim osrin. So obviously, it must be that these are the kinds of things that could easily be removed, as opposed to our implants today are basically screwed into your jaw and finished. There's nothing else. You can't possibly take them out. But the ones that they had in the time of the Mishnah were obviously removable, and there's a concern that a person might take those out in Rishus Harabim and show them off to friends, or take them out for whatever reason. Okay, and so if you had such a removable tooth, then yeah, it would be usher to take it into the Rishus Harabim. but nowadays our tooth implants and crowns are pretty much part of your jaw. Yeah. Mishna Vav Yotza Basela She'al Hatzinis. So this is another kind of refuah that a person would have is you put it if you have a certain wound, it's on the foot, and you tie a coin, a seller coin onto it for a refuah. Or according to Yerushalmi, the tinnis is an illness on the foot that's called pudgara. Okay, that's just for your info. Okay, but it's legitimate to walk out with a coin strapped to your foot if you've got some kind of pain over there. Habanos yotzos bechutin afilu bekismin shibos nehen. So girls can go out with threads in their hair. Now this is unmarried girls we're talking about. Remember we said with a married woman, she can't go out with the threads in her hair because if she has to go to mikveh, then she has to take them out. But for the unmarried girls, they're not going to mikveh, so therefore there's no chashash that they're going to take these threads out. Also, if they had their ears pierced and they're trying to keep them open with a toothpick or some kind of splinter, then they can keep that in their ears while they're going out, because that's not the sort of thing that you're going to take out. It's there specifically to keep the hole open, and therefore there's nothing really to show. It's just a little stick of wood. So the girls who live in Arab lands can go out wrapped up according to the custom of Arab girls. And people in media can wrap themselves in a shawl in the according to the fashion of media. Okay, and this is true of anyone. It's not specific to those particular lands. But when Chachamim will ask the Shaila, they will ask the Shaila by the people who lived in Arab lands and by the people who lived in Media, and therefore Chachamim gave that answer and recorded it in that context. But there's nothing specific to them that it should only be them. Okay, Mishna Zayin. So if you want to make a clasp, a good way to make a clasp is to take a big chunky thing like a stone or a nut or a coin and wrap the cloth around that and then tie around that, and that's fine. You can go if you want, if that's how you tied on your clothes before Shabbos. Then you can go out into Rosh Hashanah like that, and that stone has now become part of your clothing. But you can't do that lechatchila on Shabbos unless you had a stone already designated, because that stone is muktzah. So if you designated a stone and said this stone is going to be my clasp for my clothing, then that's fine. 100% you can tie that up on Shabbos. It's just that you can't say, oh, I lost my stone that I was using for the clasp. Let me find another one. No, that doesn't work unless you have a selection of stones that you've set aside for using as a clasp. Okay, we've lost Riley.
Oh.
Okay. Now we can go back to your Aleph Yud Aleph.
Sorry about that. Okay. We may lower the Pesach sacrifice into the oven near nightfall. And we may ignite with chips of the fire of the pyre in the temple fire chamber. But in the country, this may not be done unless there is a sufficient time for the fire to take hold of most of them. Rabbi Yehuda says, with charcoal, it is permitted as long as there is sufficient time for the fire to take hold of any amount. With what may we light the Shabbos light? We may light with what may we light? This is that we do on Friday night. We may light neither with cedar bass, nor with uncarded flax, nor with flax floss silk, nor with willow bass, nor with desert fiber, nor with sea moss, nor may we light with pitch, nor with wax, nor with cottonseed oil, nor with the oil that must be burnt, and nor with fat from a sheep's tail, nor with tallow. Nachum the Midi says we may light with boiled tallow, but the safe to say we may, with whether boiled or not boiled, we may not light with it. we may not light with oil that must be burnt on Yom Tov. Rabbi Mishna says we may not light with tar because of the honor due to Shabbos. But the concomitant lighting with all oils, namely with sesame oil, with nut oil, radish oil, or fish oil, with colocynth oil, or with tar, or with naphtha. Rabbi Tarfon says we may light only with olive oil.
And hold on a second. All the rest of these oils were largely because they don't make a consistent flame and it splatters, and my person might be tempted to tilt them. But the one thing that's standing out over here suddenly is Shemen Shrefer. Why is Shemen Shrefer problematic? Because Shemen Shrefer is just Tamei Truma oil. You know, that's good old olive oil, nice oil. But it's why can't you use that for Shabbos lights? If you're a Kohen and you've got some Shemen Shrefer. So looking in Mishnah Aleph, the Gemara explains that this is talking about Yom Tov that falls on Erev Shabbos, and when you light the candle during the day, it turns out that you're burning Shemen Tamei Shel Truma b'Yom Tov, and the halacha is that you cannot burn Kodshim Psulim on Yom Tov, as we see in the coming Mishnah. And the Amar Farshim, according to who say that the Chachamim made the Gezerah also not to burn Shemen Shrefer on any Erev Shabbos because of Yom Tov that fell on Erev Shabbos. Okay, and also there's another possibility that there's a fear that you might tilt you might be enthusiastic to burn the oil faster, so then you'll tilt it because you know it's Shemen Shrefer. So in the parish of Mishnah Base, it says we Shemen Shrefer Hainu Erev Shabbos. It says in Shmos, this is talking about the Korban Pesach. If you leave over the Korban Pesach until morning, it has to be burned. Right? So the pasuk didn't need to tell us another time ad boker. So it's coming to include something else. It gives a second warning for the burning. In other words, that you're not allowed to burn the nosar on Yom Tov itself. It has to be burned on the Chol Hamoed. So therefore, so that we've got it in that you're not allowed to burn kodshim, that you're not allowed to burn kodshim on Yom Tov. And the same thing goes for Shemen Shrefer. You can't burn that on Yom Tov. Okay.
The Shemen Shrefer is oil that to which truma and which was this refers to oil which is truma and which has become tamei now, right? And it's harvested from grapes and produce oil from that which we set aside truma from the olive oil.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why, but I have to keep reading this and see what it says. I'm on my own here about the note. Okay.
It'll probably take it to the same point where I was saying that Shemen Shrefer can't be burned on Yom Tov, as we learned from those psukim in Parshas Bo.
It says the prohibition for use as a Shabbos light, however, is difficult to understand since the law requires only that such contaminated oil be burnt, but does not prohibit the Kohen from making use of its lights while it's burning.
Yes.
Right. So.
That was exactly the question that I suddenly got stuck on over there. Okay, so next time you read Bamei Madlikin in Shul and you see Ein Madlikin the Shemen Shrefer, now you know why.
Okay.
Welcome back, Riley.
Thank you. Where are we?
We're in Chala Perek Daled Mishnah Vav.
Yud Aleph, Yud Beis. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead, or all right. I have Gimel, right?
No, Daled Vav.
Oh, we moved. Wait, we moved.
Oh wait. Sorry, I'm sorry. No, I've double moved my bookmark. What am I doing? Okay, you're right. Wait, have I? Wait, I didn't. Oh wait, I didn't. Did I move my? I forgot to refresh my page. Okay, yeah, it is Dalet Vav. It is Dalet Vav.
We didn't. Okay, so we're skipping over here. We tomorrow. I don't understand what happened.
You didn't move your bookmark?
Remember, no, my bookmark was Yud Aleph. Then Yud Aleph was one. All right, so that's 3. Okay. So yeah, so
Yeah.
that's 3, and then tomorrow will be by base Gimel, and now we're in Dalet.
Which Masechta are you in first?
I hope I'm in the right second. No, I'm in on Shabbos.
Okay, so right now we're in Chana.
Oh, you didn't tell me that. So I'm confused enough. So yes. Okay, this is Dalet of. One may take the challah quantity from dough from which challah had not been separated to make it in a state of cleanliness, in order to go on separating from his challah of demai until it rots. The challah of demai may be taken from the clean for the unclean and from that which is not nearby.
Okay. An Israelite who was a tenant of a non-Jew in Syria. Rabbi Eliezer makes their produce liable for tithes and for the law of the sabbatical year. That's Yovel, I guess. Or Shavuos. But Rabban Gamliel makes it exempt. Rabban Gamliel says one is to give 2 challah portions in Syria, but Rabbi Eliezer says only 1 challah portion. They adopted the lenient ruling of Rabban Gamliel and the lenient ruling of Rabbi Eliezer. So they took the lenient versions of each one of them. Eventually, they went back and acted in accordance with Rabban Gamliel in both cases.
Right. So just to pause and to reflect on that, you don't always have to take the opinions of the same person in the halacha. If you want to paskin halacha, you can look at it on a case-by-case basis, and you can paskin like Rabbi Eliezer here, and like Rabbi Yeshua here, and like Rabbi Akiva there. It doesn't. That's perfectly legitimate when you do it on a case-by-case basis. But in this particular case, the machlokes between Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer is the same machlokes as to what's the level of kedusha of Syria. So you can't hold like the fundamental disagreement is Syria like Eretz Israel in terms of agriculture, and you can't, and there's a kula to this and a chumrah to it, that if it's not like Eretz Israel, then if you're a tenant to a non-Jew, then it's then you don't have to worry about Chumas and Masters. However, it also means that you have an extra portion of color that you have to take out. So that's the chumrah. So you can't hold by the kula of this one and the kula of that one in different halachas when it's the same fundamental machlokes. You got to make your decision as to who you hold by on this particular machlokes, and then the halacha that comes out follows from there. So that's why they switched to Rabban Gamliel. About the 2 chalas, the following Mishnayos will come and explain that.
Okay. Rabban Gamliel says there are 3 lands regarding challah. From Eretz to Kesev, from 1 challah. From Kesev up to the river, up to Amana, 2 challah. 1 for the fire, 1 for the priest. The one for the fire has a measure, and the one for the priest has no measure. From the river and Amana inward, 2 challahs. From the fire and 1 for the priest. The one for the fire has no measure, but the one for the priest has a measure. And the Tevel Yom may eat it. Rabbi Yossi says he does not require immersion. It is forbidden to Zavam and Zavot, Nidud, and women after childbirth, but it may be eaten at a table with a non-priest and may be given to any priest.
So just the two different colors depending on what location you're in is as the 2 things that you want to remember. One is that it has to be given to a kohen, and 2 is that it also that if it's tamei, it has to be burnt. So if you're in Chutz La'aretz, then it needs to be burned, but you also don't want to forget that it needs to be given to the Kohen. So that's the reason for the 2 colors without diving too deep into this, and it depends on which area and which one is the Ikar, and has a minimum shear, and which one has no minimum shear that you can just take a little bit and say, okay, I'll put that in the fire or whatever. Okay. Now we're in Shavuos, Perek Vav, Mishnah Gimel.
Onions on which rain has fallen and which have sprouted, if their leaves are black, they are forbidden. If they became green, they are permitted. Now, Chanina ben Antigonio says if they can be pulled out by the leaves, they are forbidden, and the like of these in the 8th year are permitted.
Okay, so that's determining which parts when it says forbidden, it means that they're Shemitah produce, and that all the halachas of Shemitah produce are applicable.
Vav Daled. When may one buy vegetables at the outgoing of the sabbatical year without fear that they're sabbatical produce? When enough time has passed for similar vegetables to grow. Where produce ripens quickly, even that which is late in ripening is also permissible. Rebbe used to allow the buying of vegetables immediately after the sabbatical year was over. There you go.
Let me see. Okay. One may not take out the oil that must be burnt, and 7th year a produce from Eretz Yisrael beyond Eretz Yisrael. Reb Shimon says, I heard expressly that one may take them to Syria, but not beyond Eretz Yisrael. Okay. Would that be applicable today? Someone going to Kutz Loris and some reason taking some oil with him?
Well, no. Your truma at this point has to be destroyed because the kohenim cannot eat at the Torah. Even if you made sure to keep your truma produce completely tahor, the kohen look, what you could do is give it to the kohen so he can feed to his animals. That you could even do today.
Para?
Yes, let's get para.
Base Yud.
Base Yud.
You want to do this, Raleigh?
Yeah, I'll be with you in just a second. I was in Peah, that was wrong. Para, so Gimel.
Yud base Yud.
Oh, Yud base Yud. Don't know where I am. Yud base Yud. Yud. There we are. The lid of a kettle which is joined to a chain. Beis Shammai says these are regarded as connected in respect of tuma, but not in respect of sprinkling. Beis Hillel says if you sprinkled on the kettle, it's the same as if the lid was also sprinkled upon. But if you sprinkled on the lid only, it's not the same as if the kettle was also sprinkled on. All are eligible to sprinkle except tumtum, a hermaphrodite, a woman, and a child that is without understanding. A woman may assist a man while he sprinkles and hold the water for him while he dips and sprinkles. If she held his hand, even if only at the time of sprinkling, it is invalid.
Was this was Yud base Yud?
In Yud Aleph.
Yud base.
Yud Aleph. I can take it if you're not.
What do I have this wrong thing? I don't understand. Okay, all right, go ahead.
All right. If he dipped the hyssop during the day and he sprinkled during the day, it's valid. If he dipped it during the day and sprinkled it at night, or dipped it at night and sprinkled the following day, it is invalid. But he himself may immerse at night and then sprinkle on the following day, for sprinkling is not allowed until the sun is risen. And if any of these was done as early as the rise of dawn, it is valid.
Hajanalach Maseches Para.
Haros? Haros, yes?
What?
Haros?
Taros, yeah. First Mishnah in Taros, go for it.
Okay. There are 13 things concerning the carcass of a kosher bird. It needs intention. The volume of an olive conveys tumor in the esophagus. Someone who eats it needs the settling of the sun. One who is liable. I'm sorry?
I think you have skipped. It needs intention.
You're right. It needs intention. It does not need preparation. It conveys the tumor of foods in the volume of an egg. The volume of an olive conveys tumor in the esophagus. And someone who eats it needs the setting of the sun. One who is liable on its account for entering the temple. Truma is burned on its account. Someone who eats a limb severed from it while it was alive receives 40 lashes. And while it's slaughtering and Malika render its treifa to be tahor, these are the words of Reb Meir. Reb Yehuda says they do not render it tahor, and Reb Yossi says that its slaughtering renders it tahor, but not its Malika.
Okay.
And
Base.
Zevachim Yud Daled base.
For an animal that has committed an act of bestiality, or an animal on which an act of bestiality has been performed, or an animal designated for idolatrous sacrifice, or which has been worshipped, or a harlot's payment, or a dog's exchange, or a mixed breed, or a treifa, or an animal born by cesarean section, which one offered up outside the temple, one is not liable, as it is said, before the tabernacle of Hashem. Whatever is not fit to be brought before the tabernacle of Hashem, one is not liable on its account.
Which Mishnah are we at?
We're in Yud Daled base.
Dot base. Okay, thanks.
Blemished animals, whether those are permanent blemishes or those with passing blemishes, which one offered up outside, one is not liable. Reb Shimon says for permanently blemished animals, one is not liable, but for animals with passing blemishes, one transgresses a negative commandment. Turtle doves whose time has not yet arrived, and young pigeons whose time has passed, if these one offered them up outside, he is not liable. Reb Shimon says for young pigeons whose time has passed, one is not liable. But for turtle doves whose time has not yet arrived, one transgresses a negative commandment. For an animal and its offering, for a premature offering, one
Offspring.
is not.
Offspring.
What did I say? All right.
Offering for an animal and its offspring.
I'm going to offer them anyway. So all right, for an animal and its offspring and a premature offering, one is not liable. Reb Shimon says that this comes under the ban of a negative commandment. And for Reb Shimon would say, whatever is fit to be brought later is under the ban of a negative commandment, but it bears no charas. But the sages say, for whatever there is no charas, and there is also no negative commandment.
Okay. Riley, you got Gimel?
Okay, Gimel, yeah. Which is the animal whose time has not yet arrived because it's premature for its owner? It's the animal of a man who experiences a zav, and a woman who is zava, and a woman after childbirth, and a leper whose period of impurity is not yet complete. Where these owners, who are ritually impure, sacrifice their sin offering or guilt offering outside the temple courtyard, in this case, they are exempt, as they are neither obligated nor permitted to bring those offerings. But if they sacrifice their burnt offerings or their peace offerings outside the courtyard, they're liable, as those offerings may be brought as gift offerings, even if their owner is ritually impure. So they were trying to do one thing, it wouldn't have worked, but technically it could count as a different type of sacrifice, and so it's not okay.
Well, no, because technically they could bring the shlamim, because a shlamim is a voluntary offering, and that doesn't have any particular time that you got to wait for, as opposed to the zav and zava or whatever. Their korban is only due after the week or whatever. So if they brought it before that week is up, then it's an invalid sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas shlamim, you can bring shlamim any day of the week.
Mm.
Other than shlamim. So if you brought shlamim bachutz, then you chayv for shchut chutz.
You're in trouble. Okay. One who offers up outside the temple courtyard a portion of the meat of a sin offering that is eaten, of the meat of a guilt offering, of the meat of other offerings of the most sacred order that are eaten. That is, my commentary says, for example, the sheep sacrifice on the festival of Shabbos, or the meat of offerings of lesser sanctity is exempt, as all these are eaten by the priests and not sacrificed on the altar. And for the same reason, one who sacrificed a portion of the surplus of the Omer offering, my commentary says a measure of barley brought as a communal offering on the 16th of the Hebrew month of Nisan. Oh, wait, we know what that is. After the handful was removed, or the 2 loaves, the public offering of Shavuos, or the showbread, or the remainder of the meal offering is remainder of the meal offering is also exempt. And likewise, with regard to one who pours oil onto a meal offering, and one who breaks the loaves of a meal offering into pieces, and one who mixes oil into the flour of a meal offering, and one who salts a meal offering or other offerings, and one who waves the meal offering. So with all these different preparations, it looks like, and one who brings the meal offering to the corner of the altar, if he performs these actions outside the courtyard, and one who arranges showbread on the table outside the sanctuary, and one who removes the ashes from the lamps of the menorah, and one who removes a handful of meal offerings, and one who collects the blood of an offering in a vessel, if he did these things outside the temple courtyard, in all these cases, he's exempt. Commentary says this is because one is liable only if he performs an action similar to sacrifice that completes the sacrificial service, while all of these actions are only are ones that are normally followed by an additional sacrificial rite. Okay, and one is likewise not liable for any of these actions, neither due to the prohibition against a non-priest performing the temple service, nor due to the prohibition against performing the temple service in a state of impurity, nor due to the prohibition against a priest lacking the requisite priestly vestments while performing the temple service, nor due to the prohibition against performing the temple service without washing one's hands and feet. Got all that?
Got it. I like your commentary. What's your commentary from?
Safaria.
Safaria. Very good. Okay.
Dalit, until the tabernacle was erected, bamos were permitted and the service was performed by the firstborn. When the tabernacle was erected, bamos became forbidden and the service was performed by Kohanim. The most holy offerings were eaten within the curtains, the offerings of lesser holiness throughout the Israelite camp.
Okay. And Nadarim, Dalit base.
Someone prohibited by a neder to benefit from another, the latter may contribute his half shekel for him and pay his debt, and return his lost article to him. In a place where people take a reward for this, the benefit should go to the temple.
So yeah, that even though he's mudar hana, he can't get hana from his friend, but his friend can pay his debts for him, and that's not considered a hana.
Mm-hmm.
So watch that point and keep that in mind, because that's going to play a part in a lot of cutting Mishnahs.
Okay. Gimel. Okay. And he separates his truma and his tithes. So the one who prohibited him, the one who is prohibited from the other. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. So you got Reuven and Shimon, and Reuven was angry with Shimon and said, "I don't want any benefit from you." So Shimon is a nice guy, and he says, "Look, I can, I'll do your truma for you," and that's considered hana. So it's mutar for Reuven to allow Shimon to separate his trumas for him,
provided that it's with the knowledge and consent of the owner of the produce.
Right? Because otherwise, we learn in Masechus Trumas that if you try and that taking truma for somebody else without their permission is completely ineffective. You can't do that.
I see. Okay, and he sacrifices for him the birds' nests. That is the pair of birds, pigeons, and turtle doves of Zavin. The bird nests of Zavot, the bird nests of a woman after childbirth, sin offerings and guilt offerings. And he teaches him midrash, halacha, agadza, but he may not teach him. It says Bible here in my translation. I wonder what the actual Chumash. Yeah. However, he may teach his sons and daughters Chumash with regard to
Actually,
one,
not just Chumash, it's also the whole of Tanakh. Whole of Torah should be chtav.
I wasn't sure what the actual Hebrew or the actual
Mikra.
words in the Mishnah said. Mikra. Okay. So that's the only thing that's actually beneficial to him, I guess.
So why not Mikra for free? He can't teach him for free, because that's actually something that teaching somebody how to read the trop. Actually, I think it's how to read the trop. That's a service that you're allowed to charge for. So normally, teaching Torah you're not allowed to charge for, but teaching how to read the trop, that you can charge for. So you can't teach it to him for free, because now he's giving him a gift and he's having hana from it.
He can do it. He can do it for his kids.
Yes.
Okay. And with regard to one for whom benefit from another is forbidden by a vow, that other person may feed his wife and children, although the one who is bound by the vow is obligated in their support and benefits when another supports them. It's an interesting exemption. And he may not feed
because
his
effectively he's paying off a debt. He's got a debt. So paying off a debt is legit.
I get it. So I guess that's also why he can teach his children too, because he's obligated in Hinoch.
Not so sure about that. Well, in the Hannah Asur al Ruben, she mitzvahs lav lehanas nitznu, Shimon eno osim mitzvah b'mkom shel Ruben. He's just being mechanic. He's taking over the mitzvah of chinuch habanim from Ruben, but it's not. This is mitzvah that
It's a different.
involved in. It's not. He's not like.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, never mind.
Also that
Different basis.
He can teach his sons and daughters. Are we talking in scripture? Is that what we're talking about the
Yes,
truck?
that's right.
We're talking about the truck there?
Yeah,
So he
that too.
He would teach his daughters the truck then.
That there's it's teaching them whatever it is, the sons and daughters, the chop. Yeah, whatever it is, he's giving them a service that he could charge for, but he's choosing not to charge. But he's just teaching them Torah, and he's just taking over the mitzvah.
And the truck is considered Torah then.
Yeah, but so basically, he's not. It's not a hana that Reuven's getting from him now. It's just that Shimon's choosing to jump in and fulfill the mitzvah of chinuch on Reuven's children in place of Reuven, even though it was Reuven's responsibility.
Because this says here that the truck was not taught to Moshe Rabbeinu by Hashem. And
Okay.
so therefore, I guess, I don't know, it says, lessons in reading scripture included instruction in chanting the biblical verse with the appropriate melody. The tune used when reading the Torah was not taught to Moses by God, see the Rosh.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it's not included in the prohibition against teaching Torah for money.
Right. There you go. That's a good explanation. Thank you. Okay, you want to carry
Cool.
on?
Yep. Okay. He may not feed his animals, whether it is a kosher animal or a non-kosher animal. Rabbi Eliezer says he may feed the non-kosher animals, and he may not feed the kosher animals. The rabbi said to him, "What's the difference between the kosher and non-kosher animals?" Rabbi Eliezer said, back to them, the kosher animals being belongs to heaven, Shemaim. I don't know what the Hebrew word is that they use.
Yes, that's right. Right.
And the animal's body is the property of its owner, as he can eat it. Therefore, the owner benefits directly when another feeds his animal, the kosher animal, that is. A non-kosher animal, both its being and its body belong to Shemaim, as it's prohibited for its owner to eat its meat. The rabbi said to him, the non-kosher animal too, its being belongs to Shemaim and its body is the property of the owner, because if the other owner chooses, he can sell it to a Gentile to feed to their dogs. So it's not that there's no use for it. He can get some benefit.
Yeah. Okay.
Just going back into this Mishna here, if Hashem didn't teach Moshe Rabbeinu the truck, where did it come from? Where did the truck come from?
I guess they made it up at the time. It's just a tradition. I mean, we think that the tune for Kol Nidre or for it's very old.
Right.
It might even come from the Beis Hamikdash, but I don't think Hashem sang it to Moshe.
Right. That's interesting. I always thought that's what the truck came from.
Yeah.
I thought it's Moshe. All right. Okay, Dalit. Someone was prohibited by a neder to benefit for another, and the latter entered to visit him. He may stand but not sit. He may afford him a healing of his person, but not a healing of his property. He may bathe with him in a large pool, but not in a small one. He may sleep with him on the same bed.
I mean, in a small one, when he gets in, and he pushes the water level up, which is a benefit to the other guy.
But Yehuda said, in the summer it may not in the winter, for then it benefits him. But he may recline with him on the bed. He may eat with him on the same table, but not from the same plate. However, he may eat with him from a plate which goes back to the host. He may not eat with him from the worker's food bowl. He may not work with him in the same row. These are the words of Ramea, and the Kakaman, however, say that he may work far from him.
Because if he works harder, then the guy next to him doesn't have to work as hard.
Right.
So that's also
By the way, it says in that previous mission that you're not getting paid for teaching the Torah, you're getting paid for your time. That was the reason.
Right. Okay.
I think one should always be wanting to teach Torah to people, but we did it for the time. So, okay, thank you.
Okay. Have a
All right.
lovely
Bye,
day, guys.
Riley.
Right?
Bye.
Bye.